So it's coming to that time of the year again, where many places and video makers are doing their top games from 2024. For most of these big publications, they will focus on the AAA market, largely ignoring the many fun indie games we also saw this year too. So I happened to come across the top 10 games of the year for the time. I was curious what they thought were some of the best games they experienced this year. First one I saw on the list was with Helldivers 2. I actually had the opportunity to play this game. It's really fun, and it was pretty big, so I understand why it made their list. I did see the Alan Wake 2 DLCs, which I have not played, so I cannot comment on the quality of them. But come on, DLCs are not games, and that's a game list. But then again, it's your list, so do whatever. I also saw Star Wars Outlaws on there as well. But the really interesting one was seeing Dragon Age the Veilguard as number 1. Part of me wonders if this was just done to really piss some people off to get those clicks. So for the time, Dragon Age the Veilguard was Game of the Year. The start of this section is kinda interesting. They comment how Mass Effect Andromeda and Anthem were both disappointing, and then with Anthem being disastrous. I'll admit, I really liked Andromeda. It had issues for sure, but I honestly would have liked them to keep building off of that from there. And I even enjoyed Anthem. It had a lot more problems, but the core shooting and flying were pretty fun. The Time says that, does BioWare still have the sauce to really make a good Dragon Age game again? Apparently for them, the Veilguard was coming out swinging, thus proving that BioWare still has it. The next big part made me laugh. For the first area to praise with the game, they go right to the character creation system, even citing how fully inclusive it is, because it allows the player to select their own pronouns, along with other physical characteristics. I'm assuming that they're directing that attention towards the chest scar stuff, but I don't know. But I mean, at the same time, if you liked it or even loved the game, that's fine, that's your opinion. But like the first thing you feel compelled to praise about the title is the character creator, especially how inclusive it is. Did they actually feel like this game was good, or did it just feed into their crazy progressive agenda? Look, if I loved a game and I was discussing it with a friend, or even talking about it on my channel, I don't think I would even discuss the character creator as the first part of my discussion. I would probably be discussing the cool ins and outs with the gameplay, or story beats, or some interesting concept the game was trying. This right here, from the Time, more so shows me they picked Dragon Age because of other reasons than what kind of a game it was. Along without even looking at its quality, they barely really even touch on what makes Dragon Age special to them as a game. They spend a huge chunk of the next paragraph just going into the story setup for the game. They praise each of the party members, and that's pretty much it. For a game they are personally declaring as Game of the Year, they provide some weak examples as to why they even think it is the best. Like, even just reading this, I am not convinced that they even like the game themselves. Plus, do they read the room? This game is very divisive, so if this is your pick, then you really need to back that up. Get the buy-in for the reader, because this again is just an attempt to gaslight me into thinking that this game is any good. But in this case, the game and this attempt is very, very weak at both. Now, unlike the Time, I try not to waste my viewers' time, so I wanted to provide you with some alternatives for some actual good games that came out this year that weren't on their list, and were probably ignored by many others, because no one really included any indie games, or some other big games that were also pretty fun too. And one such big title that I actually really enjoyed was Tekken 8. I found this title to come packed with a lot of modes, both online and especially off, that would keep you entertained for a long time. Plus, it even has a really cool arcade-like tutorial mode that acted like a mini campaign to really get the player up to speed on its mechanics. The fighting is fun and flashy. The hits sound and look really good. There's even some fun character customization as well. And unlike Dragon Age, the women in Tekken actually look like women. It's a fun time. Now on the indie side of things, I was completely blown away by Songs of Conquest. This turned into a title that I would go back to most often throughout the year. Honestly, I haven't even finished the campaigns yet. The game is stuffed with content, with there being so many maps to play out, along with randomly generated ones as well. The title combines elements of turn-based combat, exploration, base building, resource gathering, and even some leveling too. If you grew up playing any of the Heroes of Might and Magic games, then you're gonna love this. It's an indie love letter to those titles, and especially when Ubisoft has been sitting on the license for Heroes for a long time, and doing absolutely nothing with it. This is another great example of seeing an indie notice a hole within the market, and then making a stellar game to fill that need, for those players asking for more, and also wanting to get something new. The music is great, and in between the campaign missions are even tavern songs. Take a listen.
To crush rebellions and push back another upstart. Lady Hammond claimed her settlements. Settling, we begin.
While not really a new game, I found the need to mention it here. It was really nice to see a sort of resurgence of Tomb Raider stuff this year. Early on, we got those remasters of the original PlayStation games. They were really faithful to those originals, and offered a really nice new coat of paint if you wanted to play them in modern visuals. I think it proved that while older Tomb Raider still has those obscure elements, that also those games have aged pretty well, and we need more Tomb Raider games too. The same goes for the re-release of the PS2 version of Tomb Raider Legend. I'm very biased, I love that game. It was my first Tomb Raider title that I beat, and it's very special to me. I used the re-release as an excuse to play that game several times over, because of how brisk and perfectly paced it is. As for some other smaller games, I found Conscript to be a unique survival horror title. It's like an isometric Resident Evil game, and it's very tension-filled. Cat Quest III may look very cutesy, but here we have a very casual title that really embraces its pirate themes for its third entry. You get your own ship, and you even have ship combat as well. It's very easy to get into, lots of rewards and exploration, and it is a very fun time. Plus the music rocks as well. As for another big title that should have been on a lot of people's lists is Space Marine 2. I do not have a lot of knowledge of the 40k universe. Usually whenever I play the games, I tend to have a good time. I enjoyed the first Space Marine, and the second looked pretty good too. Man, does this title really bring you back to a better time. It honestly feels like something from a generation or two ago, in the best possible way. The campaign is this delightful, linear, action-packed experience. Plus, it manages to pull off a very fun melee and shooting system. You can switch between the two on the fly, and there's some nice little touches added on too, really making the combat a bloody good time. You want fun, and you want unabashedly masculine stuff, then you need to play this game. And lastly, Echo Point Nova is easily one of the best first-person shooters I have played this year. It has excellent movement, shooting, and exploration. It's all made by one guy too. It's like the indie Titanfall you always wanted. So there's just a few examples of some really great games that came out this year that are all substantially better than that Dragon Age game. I found it comical when I saw the article from the time, and while I really wanted to use that as an opportunity to dunk on them too, because their justification was rather weak for their selection, I wanted to take an opportunity to again shine a little light on some titles that were actually good this year. Do you think Dragon Age the Veilguard is Game of the Year material? What is the title you really loved this year? Maybe something I should cover on my channel? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you can help to keep this channel going strong, and this allows me to be able to do more for my awesome audience. Please check out the links in the description and pinned comment for ways to support the channel. And most of all, thank you very much for watching.